Bitcoin has been going sideways. Again, many of the signals still bearish here. Again, we're coming up to the critical mass line, getting rejection. Here the trend, again, has been broken with the breach below 60,000. And you got to be able to clear, for a bullish scenario short term, you got to be able to clear critical mass. You got to be able to clear the line here showing the new potential downtrend. And again, we're still going sideways, but again, just going back and forth from bullish to bearish to bullish to bearish, sell, buy, sell, buy, say sell, buy, sell. The sell signal remains with momentum negative. A pretty good shot. We're going to try to test the 100 period moving average and support again. Possible we get a higher low, but again, losing the 10 period moving average. We're turning off VWAP resistance and the 20 period and the 50 period moving averages. So again, I'll be watching that 100 period moving average. I'll talk more about that in this video. Again, we had the bullish falling wedge. We bounced off horizontal support. We got back above the 50, but we're stalling at the 200 period here in the 4-hour time frame. I told you to be watching. Do we clear that level? Do we clear the 20 and the 50 in the daily, or do we get rejection at these levels? Now we're turning back down. We're losing the 50. We've lost the 10 period moving average now. Again, look at parameter. I told you to be watching to see what happens here. Could it still form a divergence here? Yes, it can. Going down to that 100 period in the daily time frame. Here we're at the cloud of support, but we've lost the 50 once again, getting rejection off the 200. So again, we're going to test this level again in all likelihood. We may get a higher low, but the rebound here at the 60,000 area failed to clear the 200, failed to clear the 20 and the 50 to take us back up to the upper channel line, which I talked about. The upper channel line, you needed to go higher in order to get a breakout, which would have taken us back up to the upper boundary of the bull flag pattern that is forming. We're likely headed down to the lower boundary. Now, again, you clear the 200, you clear the 20 and the 50 in the daily, and you got that upper channel line, and that would be a sign of strength. Right now, we're seeing a sign of weakness. Again, could see a divergence here before all is said and done going into the Fed meeting that could take us back to the 58,000 area. The 100 period moving average is at that 58,000 area. We might overthrow it. I would be looking for a bounce surrounding that 50 period moving average. Pring parameter also remains negative. Look, Bitcoin has been going sideways for 2 months now. It is not trending anymore. It is going sideways. It's possibly forming a bull flag. So I am just trading Bitcoin. We tried to dip below 60,000. We hit the support zone, and we hit 59,000, and we rebounded back up above 60,000. Locked in gains. I went long. Do we needed to clear these levels? On my last update, I told you we were getting rejection at the 20 period moving average. That's the blue line right there. 10 period had to hold up. I told you, need to hold above the 10 period moving average. We're now losing that. We still might get a higher low, or we might come down and get a lower low and hit the lower end of the channel and hit our 100 period moving average right there. Currently at the 58,000 range, the mid 58,000 range. So again, I think we're going to go lower. Just trading Bitcoin right now. So I've locked in gains on my long. Previously, I locked in gains on my short. Now, taking out the 10 right here, I'm back to short Bitcoin. My original plan was to have a long position here. See if Bitcoin could ride above the moving averages and take these levels out. Or I told you we would likely come back to this level. But now it's looking to me like, again, we might go lower. So again, I've locked in gains short term on the long. Now back to short. And again, I'll probably close that and try to flip back to long down in this area. But if we break this area, as I've talked about, if we break this 100 period moving average and take out horizontal support, then that would be bearish. We might drop below it briefly and then rebound something like this below the lower end of this channel here. By the time we reach it, we might tag it. But again, I'm just trying to trade Bitcoin short term. We've been going sideways for 2 months. Break below this level, not able to get back above it, would be very bearish. A push down to this level, going into the Fed meeting, trying to bounce here, that would be bullish. And again, possibly to allow the bull flag pattern to be in play if we can rally back up above the 10 period. Here, the problem right here is, again, we tried to get above the 10 period moving average. We've stalled at the 20, just below the 50. The 50 is flattened out. It's now starting to curl down. Do you see this? Again, this is suggesting that we're going to get possibly a new low, because the 50 is now curling over ever so slightly, but it is. This is short-term momentum. This is the trend, okay? And the momentum is now starting to turn down, suggesting as we're dropping below the 10, okay, it's very short-term momentum. We're dropping back below the 10. We're losing it. The 20 is had flattened out there as we went up to it, and it's turning down with this reversal bar that I talked about in my last update, turning off that 20 period moving average. So losing the 10, again, the odds are now starting to increase that we're going to take out this low and come back to our 100 period moving average in this lower boundary, in all likelihood, near the 58,000 area. Just below this area, maybe by the time we reach it, maybe the low 59,000 area. This was the mid 59,000 area right here. Again, we may take that out. We may even take out the 100 period, but bounce off of it. That's what happened the last time. So again, the 100 period defines the bulls and the bears. You're above it, Bitcoin can go higher, likely trending higher. Right now, we're going sideways, moving back towards it, okay, correcting towards it. But you drop below it, then that's going to be bearish. It really defines the bulls from the bears with Bitcoin. I changed my plan a little bit because, again, I started seeing the 20 period now begin to turn back down with the failure to bounce off the 10 period moving average. So again, rather than trying to rally above the 50 and moving back towards the 69,000 in this area, doing something like this, like that, it's failing at the 20 period and now failing and losing our 10 period moving average. So again, in order to go higher, you've got to clear that 50 period moving average. We were unable to do it. Back up and test 69,000 to go back up and test this level. We still may do it if we bounce off this level. So again, going to try to ride this down here either for a higher low, as I originally talked about that possibility, or potentially a lower low if we hit the 100 period, which I also mentioned at the time. Locked in short-term profits, a smaller gain there, a bigger gain from the short, and again, attempting to reshort with losing the 10 period moving average here. So we'll see what happens. You're below the 10 period. You can go lower. The 10 remains below the 20. And again, the 10 flattened out, and now we're losing it. The 20 flattened out, and now it's pointing back down. So again, with a failure to bounce off the 10. So just short-term trading makes sense here. Again, we have been going sideways for 2 months here with Bitcoin. And again, good chance we're going to test the 100 period moving average, and pretty good chance we're going to try to bounce off of it. And if we bounce off of it and it fails and we drop below it, it's going to be bearish. We lose the 100 period, try to bounce off of it. Maybe it's just a short-term bounce. We lose it. That's bearish. If we bounce off of it and this potential trend line here, then you potentially could see a move back up to break this trend line right here. So again, Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average. The 100 period moving average marks the trend for Bitcoin. Probably going to gravitate back towards it. Another thing, as the rally fizzled out, as we bounced off the support zone, the rally fizzled out at the 50, just under the 50, at the 20 here. Still have the bearish realignment of the moving averages, as I pointed out. That means we're either going sideways or we're going down, one or the other. So again, this is really going to be the defining moment. If we get a bigger drop here down to the 100 period, take it out, or bounce and then fail and take it out. But again, the 100 period, I'm a big believer in the 100 period. So again, locked in, a small gain here with losing the 10-period moving average a few $1,000s, and then bigger profit on the short. Now I'm trying a short right here, and again, I'll be looking to likely close that in this area and then see what happens. And try to flip the trade from short to long right here, again, like I did back over here. The test of the support zone right here, the failure to lose that 60,000 area. As I talked about at great length of detail, we failed to close below this low back over here. Now we may do it right now, but you've got your 100 period, you've got your trend line now, and you've got your horizontal support. So you've got a confluence of support here. You've got a trend line, you've got horizontal trend lines, horizontal support, and you've got the 100 period moving average. So again, pretty good shot. You're going to try to get some kind of bounce there. Maybe it, we come down here and it fails and we break this level, or maybe we bounce off of it and we come back up to try to break out of this declining trend line. So again, going sideways, that's a great environment for playing back and forth moves of support and resistance. And again, if we hit support down here again at this area here, the lower boundary of the channel, and our 100 period will likely be there by or close to that level by the time we reach it. We're looking for the next trending move. Will that be down below the 100 period or bounce off of it and back up to test the highs back over here, which is still very, very possible. We had a 9-count sell signal that was not perfected, a 9-count sell signal in the weekly time frame. That signal still may be perfected, especially if the S&P tries to form a bottom around the 20-week. And again, the S&P, following Bitcoin, the S&P is rallying right now back up to its 20-period moving average. It's likely going to fail there and then turn back down. And again, probably try to find support around the 100-period moving average, which is equivalent to the 20-week moving average, very close to it, with the conversion into the weekly time frame. The S&P rallied up with futures overnight on or after the closing bell with earnings, and then started to have a little bit of volatility surrounding the PCE data, but then the rally continues, and again, it's rallying up towards the 20, rallying back up here towards the 50. Now the 50 is not turning down yet. Bitcoin is. Again, S&P is likely following a Bitcoin. Again, as we're getting the rally here above the previous peak from 3 sessions ago, the S&P is rallying into a declining 20-period moving average that is now today dropping below, on Friday, dropping below the 50-period, also in a bearish realignment of the moving averages. Again, likely following Bitcoin's path. It's probably going to do this and turn back down. Now we have this gap way up here. Again, it's possible if we can get above the 20-period and see things turn bullish. You get above the 50-period moving average and stay above it, you can have a shot at filling that gap. That gap might not be filled later. We might be headed back down for a lower low and then come back up and try to fill that gap and maybe even move to a new high. Bitcoin could see the breakout of the bullish flag pattern. Right now we're stalling on the S&P at this trend line from the peak here and the peak back over here with the shadow. Here we have potentially another trend line just above that around our 50-period moving average. So again, a couple of trend lines I'll be watching, but I'll be watching to see does this rally end up following Bitcoin and failing, coming back, filling this gap, and again, likely testing the 100-period. Here we didn't quite reach it. Reach the 20-week moving average in the weekly time frame, not the 100-period. They're very close, but again, we're likely going to come back and test this level. If this rally ends up failing, if we lose the 10-period moving average, Bitcoin already is. Here we're above it, and we tried to get above it here, it failed, and then tried to drop below it yesterday, and it failed. So just some things to be paying attention to. Looks like Bitcoin is, or the S&P is following Bitcoin. Bitcoin peaked, the S&P peaked in late March. On March 21st, we got a peak here. We went 3 points above it, and that was the day the Dow and the NASDAQ peaked. Now, Bitcoin had peaked prior to that, back over here in early March. So again, we had Bitcoin peak, and then shortly after that, we had NASDAQ and S&P peak. Bitcoin got the volatility the NASDAQ and the S&P followed. So again, I think that there's a good shot that we come down, test this level, and then we'll see what happens. You lose this level, that's going to be extremely bearish. You bounce off of this level, that's going to be very bullish. I told you at the January low, I was expecting a bounce there. And again, I told you to be watching. Do we get a lower high, not able to move above this peak, or do we get a higher high and everything turns back to bullish? Well, we got a higher high. We saw signals in the consolidation go back to bullish. I talked about it at the time. Again, we got back above the 10 and 20 period, and then we tried to get traction going sideways into the 10, getting traction off the 20 period moving average. It's acted as support. And again, now the last time we hit it, we violated the 100 period, and then we bounced off of it. We just bounced off of it there. So again, could see the same thing here. You could come down here and slightly violate it and then try to bounce off of it, end up having the move fail, move down to the 200, or we could try to bounce and go up here, get back above the 50, which is defining the short-term momentum. The 100 period is defining the short-term trend. Really, I should say the longer-term trend. But we lost the 10 period, back to short, but I'm probably going to try to flip the trade to long here, see what happens. We lose this area, then again, I might either stick with my short, or my long position fails. Should we come down to this area and I successfully flip the trade, then I'll be looking, if it fails, again, if we drop back below the 100 period, then I would be looking to flip the trade back to bearish. But right now, again, Bitcoin's going sideways, so I'm just short-term trading here. And again, the short played out nicely. The long, well, had a small gain. Now back to short. And again, I'm going to be looking to close that in all likelihood and try to flip the trade in this area. Wait and see what happens. Likely try to flip that trade right there, because again, this is the place where buyers are likely going to be. And then again, do we have a bull flag that's going to try to either tire, or from a topping process, complete a topping process, one or the other. You could get a lower high and a lower low if we lose this area. Okay, so the top may be in over here if we lose this area, but it's likely the S&P is going to try to eventually move back to fill the gap at 5,200 and even maybe move to a new high. If it does, Bitcoin could break out of this bull flag pattern. So it is a bullish continuation that, again, could either form a Bitcoin top or could form validate a new bull market if we can clear 69,000, stay above it, and never drop below it again. So there you have it. In addition to getting rejection off the 20 period and just with that 50 directly overhead, Bitcoin, let me just zoom out here just a little bit. Bitcoin stalled at the VWAP resistance, right here, and now with the 10, we're also losing the VWAP support from this low back over here that I talked about, how we weren't able to confirm a break below this area. Wrong line there. This area right here, we were not able to confirm a break below that low. Again, now we're getting rejection, dropping back below the 10 period and also dropping back below VWAP support. So some things that are causing me to think, hey, maybe we take out this low and hit that 100 period moving average, as it so often is tested as support and resistance. So just going into my thinking again, I was looking to see if we tried to go up and hit the upper channel line as I talked about, and we were not able to clear the VWAP resistance. We were not able to clear the 50 period, and then now we're losing VWAP support. We're losing the 10 period moving average. So again, it's likely that we're going to come back to this area for a test, another short-term trade, and then it's the waiting game at the 100 period. Do we bounce? Break. But I am going to try to flip the trade back to long right there, and again, just doing short-term trading. We've been going sideways for 2 months. Patterns forming and bottom out surrounding the Fed possibly is taking a hawkish tone. So again, we'll be watching this area, and if we lose the 100 period around the Fed, can't get back above it, then that's going to be bearish. You bounce off of it, you might try to form a Bitcoin bottom. Did form a short-term bottom here surrounding tensions in the Middle East, but that is failing to get the follow-through above VWAP resistance, failing to get the follow-through above the 20 and the 50 period moving average in the daily time frame. So trader's market, as we're going sideways, trending move will either be a decisive break below the 100 period moving average, breaking down from this trading range, or bouncing off of that and breaking out above this trading range to either get a legitimate bull market or above 69,000, never dropping below it, or complete a topping process as I've talked about in the weekly time frame.